Welcome to Pillar Talk with Rochelle, where authentic people share real stories focusing on one of the 12 pillars in my book, Simply Complex, Leading Out of Authenticity. I am your host, Rochelle Armstrong, and I hope you enjoy this episode. Well, good afternoon, Mac.
Hey, Rochelle.
How's it going today?
Hey, I'm blessed. I can't complain. I get to be on the line with my friend.
Okay, yeah, and so I'm so glad you said that because I try to share like how I know each guest. And so today I was super excited because not only is Mac a friend, and to be clear, it's Willam Mack III, right?
That's fine. Sure.
So are you comfortable with Mac on the interview?
You know, Mac is fine. It is authentic to who I am.
It's your name? Okay.
Yeah,
Okay,
yeah.
so we definitely call him by his last name, but he's also family.
Yeah.
He's a brother. And so let me just say this. I was thinking about it this morning, just how blessed I am because my husband has awesome friends. And they have adopted me as their little sister.
That's right, sis.
And I don't care if I'm older than you or not. And I don't even know. It don't even matter. But I'm your little sister. And so it's just really an honor because this man is a creative genius. He has so much going on. And although I could go down the list, can't nobody tell your story like you.
Yeah.
So Mac, tell us who you are and what it is that you do.
Hey, so first of all, sis, thank you so much for allowing me to be a part of this journey. Like, I can't tell you how proud I am of you and the fact that you are helping people through your story and your experience. And then you invited me to be a part of this journey. Like, I'm super, super proud of you. And I'm really, really honored to be a part of this. So my name is Willam Mack, M-A-C-K. And I am I'm a child of the King who loves the arts. I love music. I love my wife. I love my family. I tell people all the time that this is probably the hardest part of any conversation for me when people ask me to describe who I am, because I don't want to come off like a flake, like I have all these interests, but I legitimately do. Mm-hmm. And so I'm in this really interesting season of life right now where I have pastored, and now I am pastoring pastors, and I'm also getting to lean into and live into my creative arts background, but we'll talk a little bit more about that. So yeah, that's who I am. Willam Mack, pastoral counselor and creative director for the Griot project, which is a storytelling platform for people of color. So I look forward to talking and sharing and being on Pillar Talks today with my sister friend,
Woo-hoo. Yay. But you have a play coming up, right? Is it a production? Tell us a little more about that.
Yeah, so this summer I had the opportunity to direct my first narrative short film. It's entitled Erasing, A Journey of a Black Jockey. And so Erasing actually follows the life of a fictional Black jockey who actually kind of encompasses and embodies the story of African-American jockeys who participated in the Kentucky Derby. Many of those jockeys won, I would say, I'm trying to remember the statistics correctly, but I know the first 4 Kentucky Derbies were won by and trained by jockeys of color. And anybody that knows anything about the Kentucky Derby knows that there's a big purse at the end of that race. And because they were jockeys of color, many of those jockeys, if not all of those jockeys, received nothing.
Didn't know that.
Training, nothing for winning the races, nothing. Many of them had to go back to working a regular job if they could find work. And because they were living in such squalor, also going through a pandemic because the Spanish flu was going on at the time, many of them ended up living below the poverty level. Many of them were working paycheck to paycheck, and several of them died of the flu or whatever else was going on at the time. 2 of them committed suicide because they literally just could not make it. And so it's to me, the story was really, really important because we hear so much about the Kentucky Derby and it's celebrated the fastest 2 minutes in history. And I know, and you know as well as I do, living in the city of Louisville, we talk about the Derby all the time, but we never talked about the Black hands that helped
No.
shape the Kentucky Derby for what they are. So a good friend of mine, Rochelle McKeevy, she wrote a script. And she lives out in LA now. And she's like, hey, I'm flying back to Kentucky to do this piece. I would love for you to direct it. And so we went out to Goshen, Kentucky, spent about 3 days out on a horse farm, and it got to record this short. I have absolutely fallen in love with the project because it gives life to not only this jockey, but it gives life to his wife, who was like, I see what this is doing to my man. And we kind of watch through this film what she's trying to do to save her man from dying in this depression. So it's a beautiful story about the role of Black jockeys in the Kentucky Derby. But to me, it's also a great story about how Black women love their Black men and want to save them. Yeah. So it's called Erasing. We received a nod from the International Film Festival. And so I'm excited about that. And we are, the film will be showcased during the film festival, November the 11th through the 18th. And if you want to purchase tickets, you can go online to the Louisville International Film Festival, purchase your ticket for $10, and you get to check out Erasing.
That's right. And you know what? I went out there and clicked on the link this morning, and it says unlimited showing. So like once you purchase your tickets, you can watch it anytime. I like that.
You can. $10, you get to see it all. And here's the thing, if y'all see it and y'all like it and y'all love it, what you will see is it's called a short film. So it's only like 30 minutes. But that 30 minutes, if you like it and you love it and more people start talking about it, then we can then shop it to producers about turning that short film into a feature-length film. So we're really excited about the opportunities that are coming available to the Griot Project. And like I said, it was my first film short. I've directed documentaries in the past, but to be able to tell a story like this in a narrative format, really, really excited about this. So thank you for purchasing the ticket.
Well, I haven't purchased yet. You know, I got to be honest. I went out there because, once I thought about it, because I wanted to check with Jamel to see his schedule. But again, I saw where it said once you purchase it, it's like you can watch it anytime.
It's yours.
Unlimited access.
Yep.
And so we had just purchased our tickets, period.
Yeah.
Yes, but I'm on it. Because anything I see with Griot on it, I'm on it.
Thank you.
So I'm like, let me see when's it coming up. And so definitely go out there and support if you're listening. $10, we spend that on a meal.
Yep.
Well, I spent that on lunch today, but a lot of times you might spend more than that on a meal. Okay. Mm-hmm. And so as we're talking about stories, we're going to get to hear your story today. Mm-hmm. Great segue.
Yes.
And so you picked the pillar authenticity.
Yes.
You know, that's one of my favorites.
You know, it was one of my favorites in your book because you shared a lot of your story about your grandma, and you know, grandma's baby too. Mm-hmm. And so I connected with a lot of what you shared in that chapter about authenticity. And so I'm glad that that's your favorite, and I'm glad that we can talk about it today because it resonated really deeply with me, because I feel like for me, the journey to authenticity has me where I am now. Mm-hmm. And I'm grateful for the journey, but I don't think we talk a lot about it. So I'm really excited to have the conversation today.
No, you know, on the topic, because you listen to the podcast, so you pretty much know how the interview goes. So what I'm just going to say to you is, just in your own words, what does authenticity mean?
Authenticity is the real you. You said something at the top of the chapter in your book about being authentic versus persona. Mm-hmm. Like, who am I versus who am I reflecting to the world?
Yeah.
I think oftentimes we feel like who we're projecting to the world is the full us. Mm-hmm. And we've never really stopped and asked ourselves, like, hold on, wait a minute, like, is that really me? Is that really who I want to show up and be? Or is it who I have to be in order to survive in this particular setting?
Speak on it. Yeah.
So many times people are operating under this, you know, if you ask somebody, are you being real? Are you being fake? Well, everybody goes, well, I'm being real. But the reality is, are you really being real?
Right.
Are we seeing all of us? And I understand that sometimes we can't fully be ourselves in whatever settings that we're in.
That's right.
But at least I am fully aware of who I am and who I'm putting to the side versus saying this is who I really am. And I don't know that at all, you know?
You just said something because you're absolutely right. sometimes I don't even think we know who we really are.
Absolutely.
Like you said,
Absolutely.
it's like, it's one thing to create a persona, like take Beyonce. And she talks about when she's on stage, she turns into Sasha Fierce. She knows that.
She knows it.
And she knows that transformation is happening, right?
Absolutely.
But
Absolutely.
it's different when you really don't know that you're even creating a persona or a facade. If you believe that to be true, where do you think that comes from?
Survival.
Yes. Yes.
Survival. We all have to, and that's why your grandmama's story so resonated deeply with me, right? Because I felt like when I read your story, we talked about the same grandmama, just on different sides of town, right?
Okay.
And so my grandmother was not a hard person. Matter of fact, let me lead with this. My grandmother was my absolute best friend. I loved her, right? And but there were things that she taught me, and my aunts taught me, both consciously and subconsciously, to survive as a Black man in this world.
Yeah.
And those lessons that they taught then fed into the package of who Willam Mack shaped out to be, right? And so I remember very clearly them telling me, like, you know, you're funny, you're likable, and you make people laugh. But when you go in a grocery store, people are always going to look at you. Wow. Because you're Black,
and that's real.
You're in, and so that taught me very early that everybody doesn't fully receive everybody the person that I am. Yeah. And so a good friend of mine, Matt Ness, said it, and it kind of bothered me when he said it. He was like, you know, I'm glad that I get to know all of you. He said, because the you that I saw at the pastors conference is not the full you. And when he said it, I was like, oh, whatever.
Matt.
And so I said, what are you talking about? He was like, no, like, he said, you know, you have public Willam, who is, you know, the one who's present with people and connects, da, 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 da. He said, and you're jovial. He said, but I've been able to, like, cry with you and, like, argue with you and reason with you. And he said, I don't think everybody gets this full opportunity to see all of you. And so as a result, people expect Willam Mack when they come into the room, and he didn't say this, but this is what I gleaned from our conversation after some reflection, is that when I show up in the room, people are I'm going to laugh. Yeah. Willam's going to make me feel good. Willam's going to do that. And I do want people to feel good around me, but sometimes Willam doesn't feel good.
Come on now.
Sometimes Willam is angry. Sometimes Willam is trying to sort out his feelings. Sometimes Willam just maybe came from a hard conversation with his wife, and he just really internalizing that. And I don't want to be your novelty in the moment. I want to be here, but I don't want to be your novelty. And so I appreciate authentic relationships that allow me to be authentically who I am in that moment. Yeah. Because in that moment, I may not want to be the jovial guy. I just want to be in the space with somebody just because I don't want to be alone, but I don't want to have to be your clown, you know?
So, you know, let me say this, because you are a friend and I do know you personally, and I know Matt. So the reason why it's so important for me to enunciate, especially when I'm talking about you or Matt
and Mac, right.
Matt and Mac. Yes. And so I already over kind of enunciate anyway. Yeah. But with your name, I intentionally do it because Matt and Mac are two very different people. So very observant of him. I am not surprised. Like, that is who he is. And he sees people. Like, he really listens, he observes. And so I'm thankful for that. However, I miss that. Yeah. Because you're absolutely right, Mac. You know, you have such a beautiful spirit and you're so full of life and you do always make people laugh. But I'm going to be honest with you. We went on a double date one night, and I remember, was it at Milkwood? Maybe it was Milkwood. We went down on Main Street, and you went to Tory Boat, like, can be very hilarious, and you just are wonderful storytellers, and it is quite entertaining. But on this evening, if I'm recalling the exact, like, Milkwood, we were laughing, and I remember saying something like, you all are so entertaining or something like that. And you know, Mrs. Mack, you know she don't play. Right. And I just remember she was like, she didn't necessarily say anything, but her demeanor kind of changed. And maybe she did say, we're not a joke, or you know, something to that effect. I got the message like, oh, sorry. Yeah. And so I appreciate you sharing this right now, because you're right. When people are always nice and they're happy and they're, you know, always sharing joy, I think sometimes we come to expect that.
Mm-hmm.
And it doesn't make you any less human or that you don't go through things, but you're right. I think sometimes we can come to a dinner or an engagement expecting you to be that same person.
Yeah.
But you're not always that person.
Yeah. And, and I tell people, and again, this pillar is so dope because we have the opportunity to choose who we're going to present at any given time, right?
Yeah.
As long as you're still being true to yourself.
Okay.
Right? And so even in that moment, like we love being with Rochelle and Jamel.
We love being with you all too.
And so when we make that moment and mark that on our calendars, we want to be present with our friends. And in that moment, we can be funny. We can be whomever, like we need to be in that moment because we know we're in a safe space with our friends.
Right.
But let's flip it, right? When I'm on a new job and I don't know these coworkers, or maybe I'm working in a hostile environment, maybe my jovial is a defense mechanism.
Yes.
Right? Or perhaps my jovial is then passive aggressive because I don't want to really tell you how I really feel about you, Ted. So I'm gonna crack a joke. And so I choose who I'm going to present as long as I'm being authentically myself. That anytime I enter an environment where somebody tells me, okay, well, you're being too much, I need you to bring this down, well, then hold on, now you're not asking me to be me. And then I have to choose, if I want to be that person for you. And one of the freedoms of getting older and knowing who you are, knowing who you authentically are versus who other people are trying to shape you to be, is that I think I've reached a place in my 40s, not to say that I've got it perfected, but I've reached a place in my 40s where I'm just kind of like, that's not who I am. Like, I can't be that. Last year during the protests, I had a white sister. She said, some of your Facebook posts have been really sad, and I don't really like that. She said, because I'm used to going to your page and you make me laugh. And I said, well, when I'm sad, I post sad things.
And I know you did.
And I'm sorry that didn't make you feel good in that moment. But in the world that I'm living in right now, raising 5 Black babies, like,
yes,
I am really dealing with some stuff right now. And those who know and love me know that I can post whatever I want on my personal page. Amen. And post whatever I want on my personal page. And those who love me know that it's not a unloving act. It's not me trying to reflect my sadness or project my sadness onto you, but it's just kind of saying, hey, this is kind of where I'm at right now.
Yeah.
And I didn't mean for us to kind of go down this really deep.
No, keep talking.
This deep place. But I really think that it's important for us to be able to choose. And that's one of the things that this move has done for me. I get to choose who I present to you. I get to choose that. And as long as it's authentic to who I am, I can give you 70% of me, I can give you 100% of me, or I can just pull back and say I'm 40% because I don't know you that well, or I don't feel comfortable in this environment. And I think that's the beauty of knowing who you are first as you go out into the world.
You are such, I was going to look it up because I love words and language, but I don't always use them in the proper context. Not that I would notice, right? But is it correct in saying that you're an orator? Like you're a wonderful speaker? Like you really are a prolific speaker. And when I think about just your levels and just the layers that you have, I'm just always fascinated. And so that's one of the reasons I was really excited about this interview. And I was telling Jamel, I'm like, ooh, Mac signed up, because I want people to get different perspectives. And how better than getting different perspectives is by different people. Yeah. So the range that you have, they're going to learn a lot today. And so as we talk about your authentic self and how you get to the point of like how much I'm going to show up you, whether if it's 40% or 80% based on how much I know you, I want to go back to your origin story, if that's okay.
Yeah.
So do you mind if we kind of understand like who was young Mac and how did you grow into the Mac you are today?
So I am the youngest of 3 siblings. My mom and dad were married right out of high school, Central High School.
Central. Yellow jacket?
Yeah, mama. My mother won Best Afro in 1979. Yes, she did at Central High School. And she got the pictures to prove it. Yes.
Okay. Love an afro.
That was my mama, right?
Yes.
And so mom and daddy, high school sweethearts, got married right out of high school, and I showed up shortly thereafter. Daddy went into the military. Mama was in nursing school. And while daddy was in the military, while mama was in nursing school, my grandmother raised me. And I tell everybody that I am the product of very strong, God-fearing, God-serving Black women.
All right.
And when I was 6, my mom and dad divorced, and my dad relocated back to Philadelphia where his family was living. And I didn't really have a relationship with my dad. Wasn't a stranger. We just didn't. Like, my dad was young. I understand now, it was a young man in a young marriage. And my mother, thanks be to God, has never said anything disrespectful or disparaging about my father. It's just we were young and it didn't work out. And it makes sense because at 19 and 20, it makes sense. And so daddy went to Philadelphia, mama was in Kentucky. And my immediate family was just this family of strong Black women. My great aunt was the first Black woman to graduate from the University of Tennessee. My great grandmother was the first Black deputy sheriff in Tennessee. My other aunt was the first Black woman to graduate from Southern Seminary. I had another aunt that traveled around the country singing opera, and she recorded an album. My grandmother was she was a pastor, and she was so it's just these really strong, accomplished women who loved God, but didn't take a whole lot of stuff.
Right.
My aunts will tell you very quickly and very easily, baby, you don't need a man to do nothing but open the door and get out of the way. And he ain't got to open the door, but he does got to get out.
Get out of the way.
He got to do that. And so when my mom and dad got divorced, those women came around my mother and was like, look, you are the mother of 3 children. You're going to raise them babies. We're going to help you. But what you're not going to do is sit here and cry all day that your marriage didn't work out.
That's good.
And so I am the product of that, being very of women who knew how to survive and thrive. And but like I said, they were God-fearing women who knew how to have a good time, but they didn't take no stuff. They taught us about family and community and how we take care of that. And I'm grateful for that. Like I said earlier, my grandmother was my best friend. And so she recognized very early that I had a bend towards the arts. She signed me for piano lessons and music voice lessons. I've always, I remember my first play was, I went to go see A Wrinkle in Time. And I went to go see James and the Giant Peach at Miss Saigon. Those are my first 2 plays that I watched in 2 years. And I remember being captivated, like, these are amazing stories coming to life.
Yes.
And then one night, my mom went out with some friends to this play. It was a Christian play called Resolutions. It's not even touring anymore. And my mom came in, and I'd never seen her. Like, she was so excited about this play that she went to go see, but she was telling the story about this homeless man that was sitting outside, and he was talking to the people, and the people were being mean to him while they were waiting to get in the play. And the homeless man was trying to sing, and then the people tell him to shut up, and he smelled bad, and he looked bad, and everybody just treated this homeless man really, really, really bad. And my mother said she remembers feeling a kind of way that people were so mean to this homeless man on the way inside this play. Well, anyway, she gets into the play, they get to the second act of the play, and in the second act of the play, Jesus comes in to talk to the people. And when Jesus comes in, Jesus was being played by the homeless man.
I knew you were going to say that. Exactly.
And so it touched, at that time, my mother wasn't a church-going person, but that revelation hit my mom so hard that she came in that night telling my grandmother and I about it. And I just remembered the impact of experiential storytelling on the stage, and how it had an impact on my mom, that she then went back and told my grandmother and I, and no telling whoever else she told, because my mother can talk on the phone, right?
Okay.
But just, isn't that what we want to do with the gospel? Isn't that what we want to do with the news? And so that sealed something in me, like, that was a gospel message. It wasn't done from a pulpit. It made an impact. She's sharing it with others. It's impacted her life. I want to be a part of that. And so I started studying theater and parable. I'm in love with the parables of Jesus. I love how Jesus was a parabolic storyteller. I love when I went to college, I went to Latin America and I studied Latin American storytelling. And so
Nice.
I just love the stories and the cultures of people
Yeah.
and how we have taken parables, and fables to teach these larger stories.
Yes.
And in every culture of the world, you see that happening. They teach these parables, they teach these fables, they tell these fairy tales so that they can help people be better. And I was like, I just want to be a part of that. And so that was instilled in me very early. But it wasn't easy growing up a Black child in a poor neighborhood who was interested in the arts.
Right.
I wasn't a sports-driven type of dude. And that was rough. That was rough. Let's just be really, really honest about that.
Yeah.
And so I shared earlier, funny was my survival mechanism, right? Because nobody's going to punch the funny guy, right? And if you're going to ride me out, I'm going to keep 10 in my pocket. Look at Mac's shoes. I'm like, yeah, look at my shoes, but look at your mama, look at your hairline.
Oh, you go there.
You know what I'm saying? Let's go there.
Did you all call it the dozens back in the day?
Oh, but I carried 3 dozens.
Okay.
Yeah.
You're so quick.
So I got a reputation really quickly that Mac don't fight fair.
Okay.
And so so it got real quick. So that was a defense mechanism for me. Like the humor was this kind of way of me shielding myself. In case somebody tried to hurt me, I could hurt you back, right? And I became very aware of everything that was going on around me, and this whole idea of like building stories. And so anyway, all of that shaped this, but I didn't know how to use it and maneuver it until I got older.
Okay.
And so that was my early journey. Once I got to college, I decided that I wanted to study theater. But again, being a Black student at the University of Kentucky, you go to college, you get a degree that you could make money off of.
Right.
And theater's not it. And so I ended up changing my major like 4 times because what I wanted to do was not approved by the folk who were around me, because they didn't see that as a business worthy or a smart degree to have. And so I went back and forth and back and forth and back and forth. And finally, my advisor was like, you have more credits in theater than you do in education, social work. You might as well just be a theater major and call it a day. Yeah. So my wife and I laugh about it now. She's a UK graduate as well. Like, I think you need like 100 and...
Is it 120 or 125?
I have 137.
So you're working on a graduate degree also in theater.
Yes, clearly,
Okay.
Right? Yeah. But I had done so many productions and costume design and set designs, and I was just racking up credits for those. And they were like, "Yeah, but you're an education major, right?" Like,
But theater is just in you. And, as I was listening to your origin story, and first of all, just shout out to all the powerful, accomplished, just beautiful Black women in your life, because girls do rock. And I was like, yes, and yes. And then something else that you said that really resonated with me is my grandmother also had me take piano lessons. And what's interesting is I'm looking at you and how gifted and talented you are. Maybe I should have stayed in piano lessons. No,
well, listen, she had me play them. I could play 3/4 of Amazing Grace.
Okay.
Chinese something. I didn't say I was good. I could just say I could play it.
Okay. Because I be thinking, I feel like I need a hobby or something. So I be thinking about dance. Should I go back? Maybe I should play the guitar. Should I try to play the piano again? I don't know, but I'm still trying to figure it out.
And a washboard, you can do that.
Maybe, perhaps. That might be easiest.
Ain't too many people doing it.
What you said. But the other part that I heard is that you use humor as a protection or kind of a defense mechanism, right?
Mm-hmm.
As we talk about authenticity, how comfortable did you feel in your skin being the like you said, the guy that likes art and creativity and plays, and how comfortable were you with being that person?
I wasn't at all. And to be completely honest with you, I I've been thinking about this conversation leading up to our time together, and really thinking about my journey to authenticity. The reality of the matter is I didn't feel comfortable in my skin fully being all of Willam Mack that we know now, probably until I was like maybe 35, 36.
Tell the truth.
And so the reality, and I'm still getting comfortable, like still like trying, because well, for those who don't know, I pastored a church for 11 years. And so now I'm not serving in that capacity of ministry anymore. And so now I am being okay with that Willam being okay, not in the pulpit. Right. And so I think that we're always in a journey of authenticity, of being comfortable in our skin. I'm blessed to have some friends who are a couple of years older than I am. And they're like, look, the older you get, the more sure you are. And I'm starting to feel that now. But no, it wasn't easy. It wasn't easy because, I was, am I a man enough? What's your sexuality? Are you smart enough? You don't preach like the other preachers do. You don't look like the other guys do. I tell people all the time, I think I mentioned it earlier. I like the big games. Like I'll watch the Super Bowl with you. I'll watch the playoffs. But I wasn't that dude that like every Sunday at the end of church, I needed to run home and watch the game. It wasn't my thing, right? But I love gospel music, and I love singing, and I love art expression, and all of those taboos that are placed on top of that if you're this, then you must be that, or if you're going to do this and you're going to, something's wrong with you. Why are you so peculiar? All of that stuff. And so I did a lot of fighting. I really did. I did a lot of fighting. I was silent a lot and made myself small in a lot of situations. And I tell people this, I am a delivered liar.
Talk about it. You're so cold. Talk about it.
I lied about so much of who I am and what was going on in my life. My dad passed away when I was 15. My mom had a season of a very long season of depression and addiction. And what I know to be true is that people who don't like their realities create a fantasy.
Don't we?
And so if we don't like what's going on in our environment and we don't like what's going on in here, oh, baby, I was making up all kinds of stuff.
Okay.
So much to the point that when somebody called me on it and I was like, I don't want to do that. They were like, but you love doing that. And I was like, love? Such a strong word. What do you mean I love? They were like, oh yeah, you get up, right? You do this, you do that. You just love, you just love. And I remember thinking to myself, like, who told you that I love to do that? And it just, I know it's the Holy Spirit. Now the Holy Spirit is like, you did. You've walked in this very fake, very hard shell persona for so long that people really think this is who you are. And I'm like, that is so not who and what I am. And so I had to repent and apologize to God and myself and kind of really take some time to go, hold on, who's the authentic Mac? What part of this is real? Because the persona that I put out there, people have really started to believe and engage with that guy and say that's who he is. But that's not who I am. I mean, just legitimately wasn't.
So I'm gonna pause for a moment. I'm a processor. I'll be soaking it in. So, because I'm learning, a lot of times, whether if I'm reading or I'm listening, I can have selective reading and selective hearing, which means I'm only getting parts, but all of it matters. So I'm that person you would hate to watch a movie with because I'm going to rewind. I want to get everything. And Jamel would be like, I'm like, no. Because they could have said something or did something that's significant to the plot.
Yeah.
And I like making connections, right? So as my friend, I'm listening to you and I'm making connections.
Yeah.
And but your level of honesty, it takes a big person. It takes a mature person. And it takes a deliberate person to say I'm a deliberate liar.
Yeah.
Because you're right. So many of us, we have these behaviors or we do these things and we like to say we're keeping it real, but we're still masking. We're still denying. So there's one thing to lie to other people.
Yeah.
And there's a whole nother thing to lie to yourself.
Lie to yourself. Absolutely.
But you're not lying to yourself. You're being honest, this is who I was. And if I'm being honest, you're I'm still putting in the work.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And oftentimes the guilt and shame around who I am and what I'm going through, how I got here, whatever the circumstance may be, that creates a pathway for us to lie very easily.
Absolutely.
But my story is my story, and all of us have a pathway that we have to go through, and it's not always pretty. It's not like, I'm blessed to share life with a wife who is probably as equally authentic about her story as a single mother. And so, I've heard her like share a testimony about, look, here was my journey as a single mom. It was not easy. There were moments where I felt ashamed, moments that I felt guilty. And when you are able to identify that shame and guilt, put it in its proper place where it belongs, and then say, but it does not hold me in bondage. And I am still here, and God is still moving and working in and through my life. And that incident or that environment is not who I am, that I'm an overcomer. And so, like, let me share all of that. That's freeing. That's the liberty.
So free. Yes.
That's the liberty. And so, yeah, like I tell people all the time, like, I lied a lot. So much to the point that when the Holy Spirit made it aware and I received it, like, oh, that's really true. Like, I just told a white lie about so and so, such and such. And then I didn't have to like do the work and say, why did you lie about that?
You're good.
And I had to go because I didn't want them to look at me a kind of way if I told them the truth.
Yes.
About why my mom doesn't work right now, or why we didn't get stuff that Christmas, or you know what I'm saying, like all of that stuff. And so I just lied, right? And like, it didn't harm nobody. I just told a lie, but really, you know who it was harming? It was harming me,
right?
Because I was telling myself that people can't exist with you in your truth. So as a result, you just need to lie about everything to make them feel comfortable. But really, I was killing myself.
Yeah. So how old were you when you recognized that, when you gained that awareness, and when you changed that behavior?
So the lying, I would say I was in my 20s.
Okay.
I was in my 20s. And it was probably in my mid to late 20s because it was something somebody asked me to do for church. It's always a church, right? It was something somebody asked me to do for church. And that started me on that journey to recognizing like, oh, I've been introducing this persona as my identity, and that dude is not who I really am. As a matter of fact, I don't even like that dude, right? Okay. He takes a lot of energy to expel. He is always in places and situations that he knows he shouldn't be in, but because he's a people pleaser and he wants to make people happy and he don't want people to feel bad about their stuff, he stays in places where he knows he shouldn't be. And I was going through college, and I remember going like, I don't like this persona.
Okay.
I don't like this person that I projected out into the world. And so I actively had to start pulling him back because it was either him or me.
Okay.
And he was killing me. And I was just so aware of that. And so I would have to tell people in the moment, they'd be like, hey, you want to go do so and so and so and so? And I'm like, sure, let's go. And then I'll be like, hold on for a minute. I'm sorry, I lied. I don't want to go.
You just tell them.
You just have to stop at that moment. And for me, I'm a very, like frank, blunt person. Right. So I was like, let me tell you something. I lied. Okay. I don't want to go. I really just don't want to go. And it's not personal. And I'm sorry that you did, but I legitimately don't want to go. I said yes because I like you. You're a good person, and I wanted you to be happy in this moment. But real talk, I don't want to go.
Beautiful.
And I had and that was years of me just. I had to do that for like 2 or 3 years so that it would become ingrained in me to be like, okay, hold on. If they're not happy, it's still okay.
Yeah.
I can tell the truth about X, Y, and Z. You ain't got a heaven or hell to put me in if I tell you the truth. Like, here's a reality. I wasn't necessarily the best student. Here's a reality. Like, that relationship didn't work out the way that I wanted it to be. Here's a reality. I don't have the best GPA. Like, And so I think my wife says now I'm probably on the other side of it where I'm just like completely honest about everything.
I get it. Yeah.
Yeah. So she's like, what do you think about this dress? I'm like, eh. And I'm like,
watch it, right?
Yeah. But it definitely helped me love who God has created this person to be.
Absolutely.
Right. And embrace and continue to embrace the gifts that God has placed on the inside of me. Like I tell people, if you want the best representation of who Willam Mack is, there were 2 things that I loved to do in high school. I was on the wrestling team and I was good, right? But I was also in the show choir. And so I was in the show choir and I was on a wrestling team, which means what? I can sing with you or I can fight you, but either way it goes, I'm gonna have a good time doing it, right? So, so that is who I am. But I could definitely tell you there used to be a time that I would be ashamed to tell people that I was in the show choir, right? Because what's wrong with you being in the show? Like who likes? But no, I did. I love the musical. I love the performances. I loved. We toured around. We went to nursing homes and we sung for these senior citizens and we brought like a light to their day. I loved doing that.
And felt the need to kind of hide that from people. Though.
I had to hide it because it wasn't cool to these people who don't matter, right?
But to these people who don't matter.
Who don't matter. You know, I tell people all the time, the people who judge you don't know you, and if they don't know you, then do they really matter to you, right?
Brilliantly said.
If you can't hold on to all of who I am and love this in this thing, then I'm just not the person for you. That's fine. God created a whole lot of people. Everybody isn't gonna jig and resonate with everybody.
I love it. I love it. You know, with you saying that, you know, I'm listening, I'm taking mental notes. I stopped writing, but I'll get to it. Okay. So one of my fears, the reason why it was so important for me to kind of like put my story out there, like at first it was just for my kids, right? Like I want to leave this for them, just leave something behind to know their family and where they come from. Then when it kind of took a different direction and I thought about publishing, part of that was I didn't know what perception people had of me. Yeah. But like, this is who I am. Mm-hmm. And this is where I come from. Mm-hmm. And either you can accept it or not. But there is nothing like unconditional love. So I don't even want to be around people who can't accept me and love me for me, like what you just stated. So I want you to know, like Jesus, I want you to know all of me. And if you still love me, great. Yeah. We can work out. Absolutely. But if any of those things that you know about me changes how you feel about me, you weren't meant to be in my life. You just weren't. Yeah. No. And so like, even before I got married, I remember I was like a tell-all. Like I was telling Jamel everything. And the reason why, and this is how I treat relationships as well. I didn't want him years down the road to be like, you're not the woman I thought I married. Yeah. Or him to hear, because I got a past, right? We all have a past, have things I've done that I'm not proud of. And I never wanted him or my kids to hear anything about me that I hadn't already shared with them. Yeah. So, because I'm all about you control your story. Yeah. Yep. And so someone else can argue it, they can add to it, they can take away, but you're not going to get my story out there first. Yeah. I am. And so like you said, it's liberating, right? You put it out there, people are going to judge you. They're going to say whatever they're going to say about you. But guess what? You and I, Mac, we're free. That's right. And you have other people, like you said, we all are family. We all get each other. We all love each other unconditionally. And it doesn't change anything based on what we know about one another. If anything, it creates a closer bond. Right. Right. Absolutely. So one thing I do want to ask, you know, just in the spirit of authenticity and some of the things that you did try to hide and you didn't really want to share, but you kept doing the things which mattered, like you said in the choir. Was there a pivotal moment or something in your life that happened to make you say, this is who I am, I'm taking the mask off, you can love it or leave it? Wearing the mask wears you out. Mm-hmm. And so I say this because I listened to you tell your story about Jamel. I remember Tori and I were probably 2 dates in, 3 dates in. And I just remember Tori being completely honest with me, right? Okay, and right. Going, oh my God, this is both like the most honest moment and the sexiest moment that I've ever. I'm like, man, like, you know, and I did feel like I was in this place. I'll never forget, we were at Applebee's, and I feel like I was in this place now where she's like, you can love it or leave it, but this is who I am. Which then allowed me to open the door and be like, okay, well, here I am too, sis. Like, here we go. Yeah. And in that relationship, our relationship, I feel like has grown and flourished over the years because yes, people do evolve and change over the years, but I know the baseline Tori and she knows the baseline Mac, right? Yes.
She knows the authentic person that she married. And yes, we've grown and changed thoughts and opinions and ideas, and we've added children and had buried loved ones and all that stuff. But at the end of the day, I know the person that's standing beside me, right?
Yes.
And that is so honest. But to answer your question, the mask starts getting heavy, and it takes a lot out of you. And when you look in the mirror and you are trying to realize, okay, do I even have it on because I don't see it? I don't know it. I don't even know who I'm looking at this point. That is exhausting emotionally, physically, and spiritually. And for me, I'm a big spirit energy person. So for me, I can't operate in life like that if I know that I'm draining the majority of just my existence trying to be something for somebody else.
Yeah.
So for me, the journey started really as I was entering into my my senior year in college. And before that, I had fathered a child outside of wedlock. My beautiful daughter, Genesis, I love her to death. But I had worn so many masks up to that point that when that very public fall from grace happened, that the campus minister fathered a child out, oh my gosh, da, 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 da. And part of me was like, I'm human just like everybody else is. You know, like how can I not have, you know, like I prayed with you, I buried your loved ones, da 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 da. Yes, this happened, but why am I? And I had to kind of own some stuff. And part of the thing that I had to own was, William, you've only let them in to see this part of you.
Okay, that's fair.
That's fair. Now I'm not saying that the condemnation was right, but this, you know, that's the part. The other thing that happened was, I remember working for a church. And when I left on good terms, but I was just a bit flustered and angry, to be honest, just about some things that had just kind of transpired with leadership, right? And in the leadership. And I was like, why am I so upset? And as clear as day, Holy Spirit spoke to me and said, because you're not really mad at them, you're mad at yourself. You played yourself. You knew a long time ago that this wasn't the best fit for you. You knew that y'all's ideals were not that theirs was wrong and mine was right, but they just weren't in alignment. And you were hoping that if you continue to be this person in this place where you weren't aligned, that they would change. Stop being mad at them. Let's redirect that anger, and now let's deal. And that for me started a huge journey into me going, oh my God, I thought I had licked that in my 20s, but I just put a pause or put a stop at the work that God is still doing in me for me to be all of who I am in my ministry, in my marriage. To be honest, the creative work that we've been laughing and celebrating about, I had put a pause on it. I hadn't touched anything creatively in probably 7 to 8 years at that point. And it just started a journey for me. Like, okay, hold on, William. Like, if you're going to be this free, authentic person that you were celebrating, you can't put a period where God has placed a comma, and you can't stop doing the work until you get to the grave, right? Because we are always becoming the fullest and best versions of the person that God has created us to be. And that means we have to be intentional about asking myself, who am I bringing into the room? Who's showing up in this conversation? Who's showing up in the boardroom? And I want people to fully experience, not that I'm the best person in the world, but when I show up, they know when they left that the Mac that they see on the street corner is also the same Mac that is directing the play, that is also the same Mac that's with his family. Like, I'm not going to be somebody different because I'm playing myself. And as I play myself, I'm killing myself. And I never want to do that. And like what you said about the book, I don't want my children or my children's children to feel like that is who they have to be in the world as well.
Yes.
I want to leave a legacy of authenticity for
leave a legacy of
thing that God has created and placed in us. If it was important to God to place it in us, it's important for us to live it out and to share it with others.
Wow. Well, I tell you what, I'm learning so much. And this is why it's such an honor for me to even have friends on the podcast, because people think because we do talk all the time, we have these type of conversations. And let's be honest, we do have deep conversations, but we don't quite go this deep.
Right.
So I'm just so honored you're sharing your story. Two things came to mind when you were talking. I'm gonna wrap this up because we're almost at the hour. Um, One thing, you know what I was thinking about? Actors.
Mm-hmm.
Actors have to create
Yeah.
personas for their roles anyway, right?
All the time. Yep.
So do you feel like, because the arts is in your DNA, it's just who you are.
Yeah.
Do you think that ability and that natural skill set, do you think maybe that helped or even made it a little easier for you to create personas and share narratives about yourself?
Absolutely. I tell everybody I have a very active imagination. Like
Uh-huh.
it's my gift. And if I'm not careful, and that's why I say I always have to do the work. I always have to be conscious about who am I presenting in this moment? Am I presenting a character? Am I presenting, William Mack, the bishop of so and so and so? Or I'm just Mac, right? You asked me earlier, is Mac okay? Yes, I can go by Mac, I can go by Rev, I can go by whatever. And if I'm not careful, those names carry a certain persona that I'll project out into the world. So yes, it is very easy for me to create a character
Sure.
to exist in a world. That's what we do as writers and directors. We create them all the time. And I told Tori, I'm like, hey, we gotta go someplace and I gotta be fake for an hour. I can do it. I can do it.
I love it. I love it. Okay. So the
Now,
other
you only
question.
get 30 minutes of it, but I can do it.
Okay. So the other question that came to mind when you were talking is I kind of know the background story, but will you tell the listeners how you transitioned from being a pastor, like he told you he pastored Church Grace for 11 years,
Mhm.
and then he recently relocated, he and his family, to Chicago. And will you tell us a little more about that transition and how that happened?
Yeah, so we knew. I started planning Grace Church right around the same time that your husband started planning Soul Center, and um, I knew going into the church planting journey that I wasn't going to be a pastor forever. Um, at least pastoring in a church capacity, and so it was always what I believed the call was to plant a missional, healthy church that can be
Mhm.
passed on to the next set of pastors, which that in of itself is already like weird in the
Okay.
context that we grew up because pastors pastor the church until they die or they
True.
get put out. So you don't who starts a church and then walks away from it. But I was very clear, like I felt very clear in my call. And that's again, that's a gift of authenticity. You're clear about your calling and your assignments. I was very clear about my call that was what we're supposed to be doing. So fast forward 10 years, right at year 10, we hit the pandemic. And my wife and I were really praying about my daughter's going to graduate from high school. Our oldest son had already left the nest. We had these our three youngest were still home with us. And so from a family dynamic, if we were going to make a move, that would be the best move to make. But we weren't really sure where we were going. And so we just entered into some time of just like prayer and discernment. And one of the things that I think was really, really helpful for both Tori and I was really kind of sharing what are the desires of our heart, right?
Mhm.
What are the things that we really feel like God is calling us to do, and we, for whatever reason, said we can't do it.
Mhm.
And for Tori, it was going back to school. My wife has a phenomenal gift in ministry. She's a
Yeah.
phenomenal teacher, great preacher, and she also has a great giftedness specifically towards women
Mhm.
and single moms. Like she's dope at it, right? And for anybody that's been a parent, sometimes we take our gifts, our desires, our dreams, and we'll place them on the back burner
Mhm.
for the family, for the marriage, for whatever. And Tori was like, I really do believe like that's something I'm supposed to go back and get. And I want to go back and get it, now that the kids are a little bit older.
Yeah.
Okay, cool. For me, I had started directing and writing again, and something was coming alive in me. And I realized that much of my preaching is very storytelling. It's storytelling as well. But I realized that there were stories out there that I wanted to tell, and that I felt like I was being called to tell.
Mhm.
Tell on stage, tell through documentaries, and so there is something deep. And I know this isn't what this pillar is about, but when you
Talk
start
about it.
really leaning into all of you and
Yeah.
asking God for the places for you to use this thing that He's placed inside of you, doors will begin to open. but doors won't open if you don't have the key. And so literally, I had a friend encourage me. He said, William, why don't you just walk through the doors that present themselves to you? And if you're not supposed to go through it, then we'll just trust God that it doesn't open for you.
I love that.
And so my prayer shaped to God, this is who I am. And I had this. If people ever pass me in the car, they'll think that I'm crazy. But me and God, we talk out loud. So he in the car with me, right?
Okay.
And I asked God, I said, God, where am I most excited? Where am I most alive? Where am I most present and in tune with you? And I know without a shadow of a doubt that like me and God are doing a thing right now.
Yes.
And it is dope. And as clear as day, as I was reflecting on those God moments in my life, I started hearing, when you help people hear me and hear themselves, when you help people heal, so it was hear, heal, and when you give people hope. Okay. I love to give people hope. I love to just look at Rochelle and be like, go on, girl, do your thing. And I'm so proud of you. Like, I love giving people hope, right? Thank you. So then I was like, hear, heal, hope. Oh my God, like that's it, right? And I started narrowing all of my decisions. If it didn't fall into giving people an opportunity to hear themselves, hear others, giving them an opportunity to heal so that they can be better, or giving them hope, it was off my plate. Take notes. If you're listening, I'm taking notes. It was off my plate, and that freed me up. And so in storytelling, what am I doing? I'm giving people opportunity to hear other people through the Griot project. One of the things that we are intentional about doing is that it does not matter if you're coming to a play or a documentary or something that has been produced by us. We have talk back conversations so that we can start healing conversations, so that we can hear one another and inspire one another to be better. Hear, heal, hope. That was like, oh my God. And so when we started looking at Chicago, the opportunity that availed itself for me, Tori received two scholarships to come to school up here. I was presented with an opportunity to come alongside pastors and help them and support them as they're on their pastoral journey, which is something that was really deep to me. So I get to help brothers and sisters heal and give them hope as they continue to walk in their call. But the other thing that was really, really dope was my current employer, which is shout out to Rooted Ministries. They said, we know that you are an artist. Yes. We know that you have this thing going on with the theater company and you're producing really good stuff. We want to walk with you and support you as you do that. We don't want you to take this job and stop doing that. So literally, I get to like bring all my gifts and my call to one table, and I don't have to like put anything on the back burner or spin this plate and then run over to that plate. It all is just coming together. It's all coming together. And it is so life-giving right now in this season that I can, for example, talk to you about erasing the story of a Black jockey, and I feel like that I'm cheating on my job. Come on now. Right? Like I'm just doing what I do. And so some days my wife laughs at me like, I don't know what I'm doing, but I'm working, right? Because I'm doing literally what God has created and called me to do. And so it's been a beautiful journey. It's been a beautiful, beautiful journey. It's been an awesome transition. I don't want to be super deep, but I'm really excited about what is to come, because there are a lot of stories that people need to hear. There's a lot of people that need to be healed, and there's a whole world that needs a whole lot of hope. And I'm just hoping that, and I'm believing that God has given me a key that as the doors open up, I'm going to use that key, open up the door, and just go wherever he sends me. And so it's been exciting. It's different. It's not pulpit ministry. And I know people struggle with that. And I will admit that I have struggled with that since we've moved, because that has not been my norm. But check this out. I know that this is who I am and what God is calling me to do. And so I move through it. I push through the uncomfortable waters to get to the place where God wants me to be. Woo! This is who I am. Right. Yeah. So, Mac, of course, we could chat all day. All day. I'm going to do that, right? But what I do want to do is, before we wrap up, I heard it throughout the interview. Like the whole interview itself was very inspirational and encouraging others to be their authentic self. In closing, though, I want you to speak to someone who is struggling
with that code switch, and they're struggling with, really being the person that they know they're created to be. They're struggling with identity. They're struggling with sexual orientation. They're struggling with just who they are.
Yeah.
You have shared so much of your story and your journey and how you become the person you are today. To give that person hope, because that's what you do. But specifically around authenticity and them just embracing whoever they are, what advice or encouragement would you give them?
I would say this, that you are so beloved by God that he took his time, shaped you in his image, placed those gifts on the inside of you, and then gifted you to the world. I don't care how you got here. God ordained for you to be here, right?
Yes.
And the journey to authenticity is so important because what it allows us to do is to fully represent everything that God wanted the world to have. And so I tell people to boldly embrace that journey.
Yes.
And sometimes that means you got to divorce some lies that have been handed down to you or that you received to yourself. That's why I love your book, because your book is so chock full of like truth, and it shows and displays the journey to who Rochelle is. We all have to do that work. Some of us have to like release some things that mom and grandmama had told us. Now, I just showed you my mother and my grandmother, they phenomenal, strong women. But there were also, as well as the good things, there were some things that were like, I can't weave that into the fabric of my life. It may have worked for you, but it doesn't work in my context.
Right.
And so understand that you are worth the journey of authenticity. You are worth it, and you're worth it because God created you.
Yes.
The world needs whatever you have on the inside of you. And when you play yourself down, make your life smaller, you're first playing yourself, you're second disrespecting God, and three, you're robbing us.
Woo!
You're robbing
you
us.
Don't hear that.
I need Rochelle to give the world everything that God placed inside Rochelle. Otherwise, you're robbing us.
Ooh,
and I don't think any of us will consciously say, God, I want to cheat the people. But that's what we do. That's what we do. And so my sister, my brother that's listening right now, like, take the time to courageously do the inventory to say, how am I showing up in this world? And what parts of me have I dimmed down?
Yeah.
Or just simply ask God, what parts of me do you want to make alive so that the rest of the world can see you and me? Right?
Yes,
but you're worth it. Like, you're so worth it. You are so dope and you don't even know it. And the rest of the world needs to see that dopeness.
You heard it from Mac, not from me. I tell you all the time. Now he's telling you, so you've heard it twice, at least in your life. So I need you to live up to that. Yeah. Well, before I let you go, brother, I have to ask, what is your happy place?
What is my happy place? Gosh, that's such a good question. My happy place is being in that place, like being in that light where I know me and God are doing our thing. Like it is a moment, a place where I'm both giving and receiving, and feeling the joy at the same time, the joy of the Lord kind of working on the inside. It is refreshing, but it's being in that sweet spot of knowing, like, yep, I'm supposed to be doing this.
All right.
Like right now, this is a good place to be in right now. This is a happy place for me right now.
I love it. Get
to do it with my kids. I get to do that with my wife. And then it's not, when you think about it that way, it's not just regulated on a person making me happy. It is this, it's an internal thing that I get to kind of share and kind of broadcast all over the place wherever I show up.
So I love that. And a lot of times I ask that question even selfishly, because typically I share, like I'll say dessert, that's something light and it's something fun. And clearly I have other things that I get joy and that put a smile on my face. But hearing you word it that way, sometimes you just don't know something, or you don't know how to, or you don't know what you don't know. Like you could be doing something, but don't have a title for it. I don't really know that that's a thing, for lack of a better word. And so hearing you say that, like, that gives me something to really ponder on, because if I'm being honest, not to steal, like what you just stated, but it's true, like that's a happy place for me too.
Yeah. It's the difference between you facilitating for work, and facilitate these kind of conversations, right?
Absolutely.
Because like in this conversation that we're having right now, like even though we're virtual, like God's in this space.
Yeah.
We're exchanging joy and happiness, like, and you know that when other people get to hear it, there's going to be a piece of something that we've had in this conversation that will be a blessing to others. Like this is a good place to just be in, because I'm in this space with myself, with my friend, with God, and we're doing this thing that God has only fashioned us to do in this moment.
I love it.
Yeah.
Woo! All right. I guess I gotta let you go.
I guess.
Well, look, it was funny because it was a few minutes ago, I did see Tori. So tell your beautiful wife, I said hello and I love her.
I will. She was on her way to class. I will.
Give the babies a hug.
I will. All of them. That's a lot of hugs.
Yeah, it is a lot of hugs. And I just want to encourage you to just keep letting your light shine and leading out of authenticity. Thank you for tuning in to Pillar Talk with Rochelle. Authentic people, real stories. Rochelle Armstrong, leading authentically.